Okay, welcome back. This is a follow-up to my picking of the SmartKey Gen 3 lock. Some people have asked me about my shimming tool, or tension tool, I guess you'd call it, and how I made it, what are the dimensions and that sort of thing. So I do have the dimensions here, and I'll go over that. I'm also going to go over my first attempts, because one of the questions I had was somebody said I have some feeler gauge that I wanted to use, and I had the same thought. This was my first attempt. It's way too thin. I was trying to go over the top. I was trying to come over this way and down in to tension, but I found all I was getting was the back side of the sidebar. I wasn't getting the full sidebar to tension. But I was trying it with this, which was too thin, not applying enough pressure. I tried a little bit thicker piece, and I was going to go up to another piece. I can't remember what thickness this even is. It's 0.006. 0.01 may have worked. I don't know. One thing I found about the feeler gauge is that the bending. Once it bends, it bends. It's not coming back. It doesn't spring back. It doesn't add enough pressure in spring tension against the sidebar. So, or at least I didn't think it was. So I sacrificed one of my Sparrow's tension tools in order to make it. So again, I have the dimensions here. That's what a lot of people wanted to know. So it's 0.07 inches wide. That's across this way. Looking across, it's 0.07 inches wide, or 1.85 millimeters. The effective area that needs to go in so that it can get to the back of the lock is 21 millimeters. Now, for some reason, I can't get it into a simple lock. There we go. So it has. I measured from right there at the edge of the housing all the way to the end, so that it's getting all the way into the lock. That's 21 millimeters. So I would run that 0.07 inches wide all the way back 21 millimeters. Now, if you look close, you can see mine actually tapers out. I was doing mine with a Dremel tool, so it does actually on mine start to widen out a little bit before that 21 millimeters, and it works okay. But generally you want that 0.07 inch wide, or 1.85 millimeters to go that full 21 millimeters, or 0.825 inches. The other dimension is the curve. I didn't really measure it. I grabbed with these, and I would just kind of really just barely get the end of it, and I'd try to round it, and I was just trial and erroring it, but it comes out as about 2 millimeters from the tip down, or 0.0875 inches. The thickness of this is 0.015 inches, or 0.4 millimeters down through here, and that's the full thickness of this. So if you're going to try a feeler gauge, I would say go with as close to the 0.015 as you can. My thoughts on the feeler gauge is, once it starts to bend, it's going to stay bent. It's not going to flip back like this one does. It's going to, if you get it creased or kinked, you're going to have some problems. Where this spring steel, that spring is really, really useful. So Those are the dimensions I used, and I just used it. I started by trying to file it down and running a file, but I don't have a proper vise or anything to hold it, or set it on something to do the proper filing. I was going to try to take it down really smooth and really careful, but if you would look really, really close at mine, it probably is higher, thicker in the middle and thinner on the edges, because that cut actually did come from when I was trying to file. I actually slipped against the edge. It came down really thin and it caught me. So definitely be careful with it. These things do get sharp when metal gets that thin. Yeah, and those are my dimensions. So I wanted to go over one other thing that I talked about in my video. This lock is the one that I locked up, and you can see that it turns, but if I were to take the key out and put it back in, I can't get it to turn. What allowed me to turn it is earlier when I actually went into the lock and I did that, I actually just pushed the sidebar down into the mechanism. So I have the mechanism, I have the sidebar a little bit tweaked because, well, the end of it, there where the spring sits, comes up, and it's kind of got a hook that comes up like this. And when I came over the top, I bent it in. So then I wasn't real careful. I tried to take these and I grabbed the sidebar and I twisted down and I pinched the bottom part. So I would, if I want to fix it, I can. I just need to go in and I need to clean up that sidebar so that the part that goes into the groove is not dinged up. That ding is not allowing it to go down into the slider where it's supposed to. So don't pick a Kwikset SmartKey that you're using. Don't take it off the door and take it into your shop and try to play with it, because there's a chance you can damage it. And if you look in the comments of my previous video, somebody else commented and said they had done the same thing. You know, when I was trying to work this down, I was pressing when it was still too thick and I bent that piece. Yeah, maybe I was brute forcing too much, but you know, it can happen. So especially with these, don't pick them if they're in use. I'm going to show you these dimensions one more time. So again, the width is 0.07 inches. That should be millimeters. Sorry, not just 1 M. That should be 2 M's. 1.85 millimeters wide. The length is 0.825 inches or 21 millimeters. And then the thickness, we have 0.015 and 0.4 millimeters. That's our thickness. And then from the curve, about 2 millimeters from the end, you're going to want to do that curve. I'm going to show you that curve one more time. It's very slight. I had to play with it a little bit to get it right, but it's just a very slight curve, and it's a little bit deceiving because the whole thing is a little warped. But really about 2 millimeters there. You can see the bend I put in it there. So really about 2 millimeters, just a slight uptick. I would say, let's see, an angle, maybe 15-degree angle there. And then again, just one more demonstration of how that goes. So when you come in from the front of the lock, you're searching for this hole here, and you're going to get underneath of it, and you push a little bit, and it's going to get underneath or in between that sidebar, and then you're going to stop right here. It's not going to let you go into the hole. It'll probably ramp up onto this side. You'll want to back off just a little bit so that it's right there in that middle, and pick the first 3 sliders. And then that's going to allow it to go in further. Once you get that 4th slider, you'll start to pick that 4th slider. It'll allow you to go in a little bit more. You'll pick the 5th slider and it'll allow you to go to full depth. At that point, I usually check I'll sit there and I'll check each pin, each slider, and make sure that they are solid. If they're not solid, if they're springy, that means you probably overset it. And oversetting these is really easy to do. And the only way to get them undone from an overset is you got to come back almost all the way to the beginning and start going back in again. So if any of them are springy, you didn't get the open. But if you get all the way to the back, it's all the way in, all the pins are tight, at that point, you take your turning tool. Sorry, there's going to be a glitch there. I actually hit the pause button instead of the zoom button. You're going to take your turning tool and you're going to put pressure on the turning tool. And as you're putting pressure on the turning tool, you're pulling this out and it should snap over and you have your open. If you have any questions, I will try my best to answer anything that you have in the comments, or you can come find me on Reddit and ask questions there, or Discord, freediver72 on Discord, and I think it's freediver_72 on Reddit. Thanks guys, have a good one.